Hi, my name's Starsky and welcome to From the Studio on Clubbing TV. In this episode, I'm going to be taking a look at an absolute essential to anyone making any sort of tracks, and that's your studio monitors. Now I know this isn't maybe the most inspiring a subject, it's much more fun looking at crazy synths and weird sounding effects units, but although I say they're uninspiring, look at this, that's gorgeous. Is it just me, or are quality engineering details a little bit sexy? And there's nothing that can't be improved on with a couple of fake plants and the odd ceramic or two. Absolutely beautiful. You can have the sort of greatest synths and drum machines with an amazing singer, fantastic outboard gear and the world's best mixing console. But if you're using hi-fi speakers, you can't accurately hear what your tracks sound like when you're making them. And chances are they'll sound a bit rubbish when you play them out. And that's because hi-fi speakers and monitors are designed to do completely different things. Hi-fi speakers have been designed to make things sound good, whereas studio monitors are designed to reproduce the sound as precisely as possible and allow you to hear exactly what's going on. The idea being that if it sounds good in the studio, it'll sound good in your car, on your headphones, on a rubbish little TV, or through a huge PA system. The hi-fi speaker isn't producing all the frequencies at the same volume. It's not even trying to. It's been designed to play some louder than others, to colour the tone and to make it sound as nice as possible for the price you pay. Whereas the studio monitors, on the other hand, these have been designed from a completely different perspective, not playing it back as nice as possible, but playing it back as accurately as possible. And I can really speak from experience here. When I started doing dance music with a couple of DJs, I monitored everything through these speakers, and everything sounded fantastic in my apartment, so much better than all those famous club tracks we were listening to. We actually couldn't believe how good our mixers sounded. So to see how they worked on the dance floor, they dropped them into the sets in the club, and it was an absolute disaster. Everything just sounded really muffled and woolly. It sounded like someone had sort of got a duvet and thrown it over all the speakers in the club. Really, really terrible experience, and one I wish I couldn't remember. It was dreadful, but it was a learning experience, and the very next thing I saved up for was a proper pair of monitors. But if monitors sound that good, why do people have more than one pair? We've all seen those photos of recording studios with loads of different sets of monitors, and they'll often have like a huge set, like sort of massive set that's sort of built into the wall, and they're the mid-range monitors. But you'll also have lots of smaller sets as well, and they'll be sitting about a metre or so from the listening position, around here maybe a little bit farther, and they're your near field monitors. That's what these are here, and literally every professional studio in the world has at least one pair of near fields, and for a home studio that's exactly what you're looking for. But why have I got three types here? Why not just one if they produce really good results? Well, I've got my main monitors, which are these Neumann KH310As, and as I say, these are pretty expensive at over £3,000 a pair, but they're absolutely amazing, and they're pretty much all I actually need in the studio now. I did have various selections of bigger and smaller ones to switch between, often just to refresh my ears when I'm doing a mix, but once I found these, I realised I could just sell the others, which was really good because it saved loads of space. And these go down to about 30 Hertz, which is almost down to subwoofer range, so I don't need a subwoofer, which again saves a lot of space, but more importantly reduces the amount of complications you can get with monitoring bass once you put in a subwoofer, as bass can sort of generally get really out of control, and there are all sorts of low frequency acoustics due to size and shape of your room that come into account. So I found it better to avoid subs if I could. And listening to that track from the intro again, I can hear this has got much more extended low end. I can hear the sort of subs rumbling, but only when I listen through these, because none of the others are capable of playing that extended bass range. So if you listen with a TV with a sub on, you might hear it, but other than that, you probably won't. But although I've got the one main set, I've also got this little thing here, which is what we affectionately call a grot box. And you'll see little boxes like this pretty much every studio as well. And they're used to check on how things will sound on a really rubbish little speaker. If it sounds good on the big ones and it sounds good on this, you're pretty much good to go. But this isn't just any old sort of rubbish little speaker. And you couldn't just use anything. It's got a low distortion, it's got a fast response and all the sort of things that you'd want from a monitor. So just like a near field helps translate to every hi-fi and PA speaker, this helps translate to every rubbish speaker. And I've only got one of these, I haven't got two, because I want to hear what it sounds like coming from a mono source, like a little smart speaker or a small TV or a rubbish speaker in a shop. And if I play that intro track again on this, you can hear it sounds absolutely nothing like any of the others. It sounds really tinny, it doesn't have much bass end, and those hi-hats sound really loud. And in fact, I think that's got more to do with the microphone that I used there than the actual speaker, because it doesn't sound like that in real life, but it sounds horrible when I play it through these. Bizarre, but just shows the sort of importance of different monitors. So I've got these as my main studio monitors. I said I didn't need anything else except for maybe a grot box for listening to what it sounds like on rubbish little systems. So why on earth have I got these Dynaudio LYD7s? Well, I've got these for use when making these episodes. There's little point to me attempting to make a track or demo something when I can't hear it properly myself, even though I'm not mixing it as a finished product. When I'm making demos for these shows, it's important that I can hear what's going on as good as I possibly can. Because when I'm doing something just like this, I'm not in a treated room, there's loads of reverb in here, but I still need to make something that will sound okay on thousands of different types of TVs, phones and tablets. It's not necessarily going to be perfect and studio quality, and the tracks I make on this table here aren't going to sound like fully finished mastered product you'd hear in the charts, but at least you can hopefully hear what I'm doing clearly enough, which is why I need a decent monitor. So I had to spend £800 on monitors just so I could do this, because I don't want to be lifting these in and out of the studio. Not something worth £3,500, because it'll only be a matter of time before I drop them, and I really don't want to do that. But that does bring me on to the next point, and that's your room. I'll talk about acoustics in another episode, but it's really important to note that your room itself has a massive impact on the sound you're hearing coming from your monitors. Some monitors now contain software to adjust the EQ of the monitor itself for the room, adjusting itself for the room that you're in. And I don't have anything like that here, but what I do have, which is becoming a pretty industry standard tool, if it's not considered industry standard already, is the Sonarworks reference software. And this is a really well respected bit of kit that can compensate for the sort of non-flat response of your monitors and your room by adjusting the EQ of everything coming from your computer, taking the combined response of your monitor and the room into account. Don't worry, it'll all make sense in a minute when I demo this. And this uses this little reference mic here, and the software knows the exact frequency response of every individual mic they've ever produced. And by using this, you can generate a room response using this pretty cool software. It measures exactly where you are in your room by sending pulses from each speaker, and then measures the response of the room at exactly that point. Here we have the response curve of my room and the Neumanns, and you can see the low mids are completely missing. And it turns out I've had the low mids turned all the way down on the back of my monitors, and I've no idea why I did that. So I'm gonna have to do this all over again to tune things up in my room. And I'm also gonna write to Sonarworks. I'm gonna give them a nice letter to thank them for showing me what an idiot I am. But using what we've got here, let's have a listen to the difference with the software flattening the curve and without, and a couple of other things like it's got hi-fi mode to give you a nice warm hug, and a cinema mode to make it sound like it should do in a cinema. So you can hear there's a definite difference, although if you're watching this through a little TV speaker, maybe not, but to me there's a huge sort of distinct difference in the sound. So even though I'm using over £3,000 of monitors, it can still be improved on, especially if you've done anything like this. But I'm running out of time in this episode, so let's round up with some important things to remember. So here's my quick 7-point guide to studio monitors. Number 1, spend as much as you possibly can. Unlike synths and things where you can get some really good bargains and amazing stuff on the cheap, this just isn't the case with studio monitors. You get what you pay for. So bearing that in mind, point 2, think about buying some used. Some people don't like buying speakers secondhand, but if you go for eBay, for example, you're covered by their buyer's protection, so if anything goes wrong, you can send it back. And this is the only real way you can pick up a bargain, and there are loads of quite cheap things you can get that are just a couple of years old. Number 3, if you get a chance, have a listen and compare in the store, because as with anything, different people prefer different monitors, and some may be better for your style of music, but if you look online for opinions, you'll get completely conflicting advice for exactly the same speaker. Number 4, if you're doing bass heavy music, you might need a sub. Most people don't, but if you feel you need one, do your homework and try to get one that's paired with your monitors so the sound gels. So get a Dynaudio one that goes with these, or get a Neumann one that goes with these, but do be aware that subs can bring more problems than they solve. Number 5, put some treatment in your room. There's absolutely no point in having the world's best speakers in a really echoey room. In this room, for example, I get huge reverbs, so these monitors will be completely wasted if I was trying to produce proper tracks in here. And number 6, once you've got your monitors, read the manual about where to place them in your room. Things like don't put them in corners or not next to walls if you can help it. But if you do, you may need to turn down the bass response or plug up a reflex port or something. It'll all be in the manual, so it's well worth reading the manuals. And finally, point 7 is think about using something like the Sonarworks system for flattening response. Hopefully that was of some use to someone. There was a lot of information in a really short space of time, so it's a good job. It'll be on our From the Studio playlist on the Clubbing TV official YouTube channel. And if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll see what I can do to answer them. And don't forget to check out the Starsky Carr YouTube channel as well. I've got more in-depth tutorials and reviews of studio tech where I'll upload a more detailed description of how the Sonarworks system works as well. So I'll see you in the next episode of From the Studio.